Welcome back to the channel, everybody. So I'm gonna try to do a video on this awning that we're doing and see if I can explain it correctly and hopefully have a little bit of room with you. Hopefully get out of the light here. Anyways, this is a 25 foot wide by 35 foot out from the building commercial awning. And so I bought an awning company about a year and a half ago and bought a patent on an awning and everything, and we do these kits that are snapped together, and we nailed a bunch of them out last year. And I wanted to, everything went good, and I wanted to broaden my horizons a little bit. So they called me on this, and I was like, so my kit can't do this. It can't be that high. It can't go that far out. It's meant for specific applications, and this isn't it. So I was like, well, I want to do, got really foggy there. What the hell? I want to do more commercial stuff. I want to learn how to do more of this stuff. Red iron work, because one of these days I want to build my own red iron stuff. So let me flip it around. I'll show you what. So I went to Metal Depots and I gave them the dimensions. And they gave me drawings. So there's a bunch of steel added here, but these are 8-inch C purlins, 8-inch receiver channel, 4-inch 11 gauge posts. And they were spaced every 4 feet, which is what the top ones still are. There was no braces. And what you're seeing here is C channel that we had to add after the fact. So we put all this together, and then, so the other thing I didn't realize is the posts coming down were right here, and there's concrete in here, so we drilled our post in and moved them in a little bit. Didn't think that was a big deal, and they gave us a drawing, and we turned it in, and so there was a long story behind it, but basically the inspector came out and said, this doesn't pass inspection, this isn't to code. Your engineering was not specifically for this site. It did not have an address on it. It was a generic piece of engineering. And so I went back to Metal Depots and I say, well, this doesn't, you know, they're saying all this. And they said, well, we sell these everywhere. This is how this works, and yada, yada, yada. And so we have a 30 pound roof load and a 30 pound snow load, and however that works, basically you design for one, right? So it's, I know how to do the spans and everything on the roof load. This came out to, these beams would hold 18 pounds, something, was it? Let me think how that works. I think it was 18 to 20 something pounds per linear foot. This, because they're sharing the load, so you're doing from span to span. So you have a 4 foot span, you're calculating 4 foot, because you have from the center of one beam to the center of the other, and that weight is all bearing on this thing. So then you do wide, so 25 foot by 4 feet wide by by 30 pounds of snow, and that'll give you the rating of that beam. And it was the beam was not within that spec. That was the first problem. The next problem is I was bearing on, so C channel there, but I have all of these beams. So I have this beam bearing on the center, but I have all of these beams bearing on the receiver channel, which Metal Depots told me to do. That was not allowed. That's not how that works. So I got shut down. I got fined $500 a day while this structure was still up to $10,000. They wanted me to take it down, and I was like, well, can I just take it down and leave these posts? Because we have the engineering and everything was for the post in the ground. These are 4 feet deep, and they've got basically a 3 foot by 3 foot by 4 foot column of concrete in there with rebar you would have had to bring a massive excavator to get these things out. And they said, nope, everything has to come down. So, we've got this like special, I don't know if you can see it, but colored stuff. It was really kind of like a rubber asphalt or whatever. So I wasn't going to take it down. I was like, well, we'll just get it fixed real quick. And basically time flew by. It didn't take no time at all to top out at my $10,000 fine. And I didn't really charge that much for this because this was my first go. So, yeah, let me show you the paperwork. So I hired one engineer. And so I actually hired another engineer, and he took like 6 months or something to get back to me. I went through every engineering office in town and got a guy that could do it pretty quickly. So I don't know how good a detail you're going to be able to see. So he's got C8 by 11.5 pound C channel at each post going across. Trying to think what else and then he's got and then 2 foot on center or something. It was 2 foot on center purlins, and then he's got every single one of these C channels, which is heavy C channel, notched to go into the receiver channel. And then we've got a Simpson tie and tech screws, number 12 tech screws screwed through the 11.5 pound C channel. So anyone who's tried to screw through that heavy a C channel knows that a tech screw, they're gonna break, they're not gonna go through, you'd have to pre-drill them. It'd be super time consuming. These Simpson ties are somewhere like 12 to 17 bucks a piece. And he's literally got, I mean, we've got dozens and dozens and dozens. It was like $500 in Simpson ties. Trying to think what else we did here. Oh, and on the paper, let me see. He said, well, you got to take out the steel columns. So when I did this, I said, I need to retrofit this. I would like to not take very much down. I would like to use what we got and just beef it up. And so he charged me about $5,000, $5,500, something like that for the engineering. And he also said that we need 3/16. I'm trying to see if it's on there. So we've got 3 3/4 inch bolts going through. Seeing if I can see the specs, but it's a 3/16 pole. That was one thing. So we had to take the poles all the way back out. And then the other thing he had on the other page, he had concrete because he didn't want these things spanning. This is 13 feet on this side, 15 on this side. He had 4 feet concrete coming out of these things. So he was saying that we can slide the 4-inch post down in there and whatever, concrete it, and it was super complicated. It was super expensive, wasn't going to be easy to build. And so I freaked out because that was going to be a whole bunch of money. So I took a gamble and I hired the original engineer that I worked on with my house that I never built. Really smart guy, about 83 years old. And I basically begged him and said, I need a solution for this. And I want to keep this existing, yada, yada, yada. So he came up with C8 channel, 11.5 pound per foot, same as the other guy. But instead of notching every single one of these into the beam, taking all this down, we just slid the 8-inch beam under, bolted it the same as the other engineer said. We don't have all the bolts in yet. And then did the cross supports, kept the cross supports fix the 11 gauge post, which this thing, it was stout. It was never going to move. I have a similar one of these at my house that's actually 9 foot on center. A little bit shorter, heavier posts, but same construction. So we did the 45s, and then I talked to the engineer, and since this was kind of funky to put a 45 here, it didn't look right. He said, well, you don't have to use that. That's at the end. That's a supporting beam. You know, all that's fine. So we just had to, see if I can see it, bent those around a little bit. We were able to fish plate them, bolted them through. They didn't want us doing much welding, but we got away with welding on some of it. But we got to use everything. So now we've got all that up. Now we got to go back and put up 14 gauge, 8-inch purlin in between each one, 2 foot on center. This thing is super, super overkill if you ask me, but you're basically at the engineer and the county's mercy on, you know, what the engineer, you have to do what the engineer says, and you have to do what the permit office says. I think this is way freaking overkill. So the other thing is, this building is has fire suppression in it, has a sprinkler system. So we spent quite a bit of time, and they said if it was connected, you're gonna have to put a sprinkler system under here, and you're gonna have to put lighting under here. This has to be up to code, part of the building. So we're gonna have to pull sprinklers, and we went back and forth. And so far, I think I've got the pass that, so we never connected it to the building because we didn't know if we were gonna be allowed to. So we were trying to come up with some, honestly, it was gonna be canvas because canvas wasn't gonna be connected to the building, but, which is funny because that's a flammable material, but a metal piece was connected to the building. So I don't think we have to do fire suppression, but we're gonna come through here and we're gonna put channel, another 2 foot on center, and come and fix that. So we're almost done fixing that, and then we just have to roof it, trim it. I also have to paint everything. So another thing I didn't plan, because the red iron was going to be decent enough looking, plus we've got brown trim, so it wasn't that out of place. But now we've got all this bare 8-inch channel. We've got some 4-inch C channel. So now everything needs painted, which was not in the original plan. And unfortunately, I'm not charging for any more of this. This was all my mistake for not doing my paperwork correctly and getting everything done in the order it's legally supposed to be done. So I'm eating weeks and weeks of labor and over $10,000 in engineering fees, $10,000 in fines, and then I think it's about $3,800 more in steel. It might have been more than that, and weeks and weeks in labor. So anyways, quick way to bankrupt yourself. If you're new at this, which I am, I was already almost bankrupt to begin with. We're barely gonna scrape through this. I convinced the church to pay me the rest of what is owed on this before I was finished, so I can just scrape through it and eat it all and move on with life and kind of know better for now on. But there's only a handful of engineers in my town. There's 3 of them that can get work passed for you. 2 of them are over 80 years old, and 1 is about 50 years old. There's no one else. And I wasn't super happy with the one. I didn't tell him that I went with another engineer. I was hoping one day he'd just stop and look, but this was obviously the better solution. All right, so these guys are putting up the center beams. Look at the freaking spacing on this for a fucking awning. It doesn't even snow here. But that is, so it's 2 foot on center. And I've been here for 30 years and I've never seen over 6 inches of snow. So I think by my math, this is rated at about 50 pounds per square foot snow load. So I think I kind of got an example made out of me. But, oh well. So let's see, we have 1, 2, 3 more to do, and I think I'm allowed to leave that back one. I think that's already 2 foot spacing. Or, well, not quite, but on the drawing, it's left alone. That spacing is out of control. Be the stoutest awning. Get 6 feet of snow here, and this will be the last thing standing. Let's see if I can get a good picture of it. So I was doing a job in Texas, and they had it where 1 foot on center, called a mezzanine or whatever, and it was C8, same channel, and you had to notch every single channel, And that's the other thing. We're not welding, we're not notching any of these things. Receiver channel is a really amazing system to use because it just goes together, screws together. So we're tech screwing all of that together. There's no more load like there is. We can tech screw it without Simpson ties and all that shit. But the other one needed 170 pieces of C-channel notched and welded on to another piece of C-channel. A crazy amount of work when you could just put the beam below it and then trim it out. So an engineer is worth his weight in gold. A good engineer. A bad engineer will have you doing all kinds of work and spending all kinds of money that yeah, so that you don't have to do, I guess is what I was getting at. So I'm gonna end this video here. It's enough of a rant. I'll do another video when this thing is done, just showed the finished product. And yeah, so that's the other thing. Metal Depot's kind of screwed me because, oh, so they offered me a $200 in-store credit is all they offered me. And I am liable for a lot of this, but I don't feel like I'm 100% at fault because I went to Metal Depots and they told me this is what we're selling, this is ready to go, everything's good, and that was not the case. And the engineers in the city permit office said that Metal Depot's employees are about like a Home Depot plumber, that they know just enough to get them in trouble. They're $12 an hour employees, and they don't know what they're doing. They've never built anything. They're not that brilliant of employees. If you're a Metal Depot employee, you probably take offense to that, but when you come out here and do this work, it's a whole nother ball game. Lots of politics involved. So now I know not to trust Metal Depots, and do the process, do the paperwork, and follow all the freaking political bullshit, and charge a whole lot more than what I am to get through the political bullshit. So hopefully this helps someone. Kind of a, I don't know if it's a unique situation, but I guess the end of the conclusion is don't trust Metal Depots. Hire the correct engineer, follow the paperwork, quote out properly. So like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next video. I'll show a finished view of all this, and that's the other thing. Now we're in the winter time. 6 months to get the paperwork sorted out for this. I had some college kids helping me in the summer, so now we're short-staffed, and it's freaking cold, and it gets dark early, and we're overbooked and overscheduled. Got to deal with it though. Working super late in the cold. See you on the next video. Thanks for watching.